So this video has been a long time coming. I have mentioned this. I think I mentioned it in the 3-year anniversary video that I will eventually be doing a game collection video where I show off my collection, which you can see here. But here we are. If you don't know, my name is Christendo. I'm the biggest nub on YouTube. And as I mentioned before, we're going to be going over what I got here on the shelf. I have about over 100 games on here from the Nintendo Entertainment System to the Nintendo Switch, all of which of course are Nintendo games because Nintendo is just the company I've kind of grown up with the most. So just being able to have basically every Nintendo system and console at my disposal at any time besides obviously the Virtual Boy, it's kind of nice to be able to just play whatever I want if I have it with official hardware, because obviously playing games emulated, it's fine, it does what it needs to, but it's not the same as it would be without playing it on official hardware. But we're going to start with the Nintendo Entertainment System. If you haven't seen it yet, obviously this right here is what that looks like. A nice big bulky piece of plastic, and the one I have especially, it's nice and squeaky. When you open it and you close it, it makes wonderful sounds. So, you know, it's kind of great. Obviously, you know, you have the power of the select button, which we don't have on consoles these days, and obviously the controller is iconic as hell because it's the plus with A, B, and it's the controller that hurts everyone's fingers when they play with it. I personally haven't had any problems with it, but that's just me. But obviously, we're going to start with the NES because that's what started Nintendo off. And the first game we got here, at least in terms of alphabetical, is Kid Icarus. I'm yet to still play this game. I got it. It was on it was a pretty decent price. I think it was like $19 or something. And I was like, you know, this is a cult classic. It was also in the Super Mario Bros. Movie for a brief second. I thought that was kind of cool. It was around the same time that I got this, is when it showed up in the Mario movie. And I saw it, and I was like, you know what, that's convenient timing. But I've heard this game is hard as hell. So, like, I'll eventually have to try it. I know it's on NSO, so if I really wanted to play it on the Switch, I could. Or if I wanted to get it on the NES, I could do that as well. But I don't have much experience with this game. I do kind of like that the box art for it, though. It just kind of shows you what the game looks like. It doesn't try to be pretty or anything like, you know, modern box arts do. It's just Nintendo showing off kind of what it would look like in game, which I kind of appreciate. And we'll see that again with actually not our next game, but our next game is Kirby's Adventure. I'm pretty sure this is the first one, and this is the only Nintendo Entertainment System game I had the manual for, which I thought was kind of kind of cool because I didn't pay much for this one either. As you can tell, NES games are pretty cheap. I think this one was about like $25 to $30, and that came with the manual. And it's in pretty good condition too. There's like not any scratches on it. The box art is obviously, or I guess the art for the game art is obviously intact. But this is, I'm pretty sure, the first Kirby game, if it's not on the Game Boy. I don't remember for sure. But I've heard this one is really short. Again, I don't have much experience with this one because I didn't grow up with the NES, obviously. Again, it's probably on Switch Online as well. If it's not, I'd be surprised. But again, another gem that I'll eventually want to get to. But, you know, it has cool box art, and it's Kirby. Who doesn't like Kirby? Up next, we got the Super Mario Bros. That's the other one I was talking about. That has the, just kind of showing off what the NES games would look like. Obviously, this box art is the most iconic box art in all of gaming history, because like this is, everyone knows already, this is the game that saved the video game industry. When this game released, it was obviously one of the biggest games of all time, one of the most held dearly games of all time, and it's for a good reason because it's basically the game that saved all video games. This one is a cult classic. It's one of the games that have been speedrun the most. And just overall, it's a fun game. It has a lot of quirks. It has a lot of glitches that the community has been able to break for speedrunning. And I think it would be kind of fun to speedrun this game sometime, but it's not my top priority. But still, it's a great start to the Mario franchise, even though the controls are clunky as hell still. I will say that the controls are pretty clunky, but once you get used to them, it's a fun time all around. Obviously, following Super Mario Bros., we have to have the second game, Super Mario Bros. 2 USA, because if you, for some reason, don't know, Super Mario Bros. 2 was two separate games. There was the Lost Levels over in Japan, but since they thought, for some reason, that game was too hard for us here in the West, they made a reskin of Doki Doki Panic, I'm pretty sure was the game, and they made it Super Mario Bros. 2. This one was definitely, like, way different than the other ones. Obviously, Bowser wasn't the villain, it was more... The gameplay was different, there was no timer, it was more kind of open-ended, I guess you could say. Obviously, you still get to the end of the level, but it's a more different Mario game, which we haven't really seen much of until, like, the upcoming Super Mario Bros. Wonder outside of the 3D games. So, I think this one is... Even though it is a reskin of another game, I still think this one is a fun time. I still think it's a classic, and if you haven't tried it yet, I definitely recommend trying it out. Obviously, we gotta finish off the trilogy with the third installment of the game, or the third installment of the franchise, Super Mario Bros. 3. Again, another cult classic, considered one of the best games of all time. Personally, this isn't my favorite 2D Mario game. We'll get into that later. But I think it's a fun enough time. There's some stupid levels in there, like the one where you have to use the star to be able to get through it, because if not, you get absolutely destroyed by munchers, but still a fun game. It was the introduction of the Koopalings and to the airship levels, so that's kind of cool. And it has the iconic Tanuki Leaf power-up. We all know what that power-up is. If you don't know, then you haven't consumed any Mario media. It's all over the place. Fun game all around. Probably the best NES. Probably one of my favorite NES games. Because there's, you know, to be honest, the NES doesn't have the best games because they haven't aged well. But in terms of NES games that did age well, this is definitely one of them. And lastly, we have, of course, for the NES, lastly, we have the Gold, The Legend of Zelda game. Again, another game I have not played. Actually, okay, that's a bit of a lie. I played like 5 minutes of it on NSO or through the NES Classic, but I don't have much experience with this game, so I can't really give many thoughts on it. But it's kind of, from what I've heard of what people said, this one is a bit like closer to what Breath of the Wild is in Tears of the Kingdom is, because you're kind of able to choose your own paths. You have different paths you can go. You're not following a set. Path. You kind of get to explore, even though there's not much of a world. At least from what I've heard, you get to kind of more explore Hyrule in this one compared to others. So, you know, that's a start to something. But I think the gold case, it's kind of nice, but scratches are a lot more noticeable on there. Thankfully, this copy doesn't have as many. But it's definitely one of the cooler games I have in my collection. Will I play it? Maybe, but I don't know. I just think it's a cool case. I think it's a cool... Not a case, it's a cool cartridge. And I think it's a nice way to kind of end off the whole NES section, or actually this whole cartridge section. Because, well, it's gold. It just kind of sticks out. Looks kind of nice. Moving on to the Super Nintendo. Obviously, this is the system right here. We have the nice power, which you turn on and off. You got reset, and then to eject the cartridge, you just click this down. Obviously, it goes in there. Thankfully, this one isn't squeaky, because there's no need for it to be squeaky. But this is definitely, like, I really like the design of this one. It's not as bulky. I mean, it's still big. It's not as bulky, though, as the NES. It doesn't look like, you know, just straight up rectangle. But it has a nice design. It's nice, clean, and it's actually it's one of the last consoles I got besides the Wii U. The Wii U was the last one I got last year, but this is actually one of the last Nintendo consoles I got. I was hoping to get it a little earlier, but nonetheless, we have it here, and we got a bunch of games for it. One of my biggest collections, actually, probably was behind the Wii and the Switch. Starting off that collection, I made a mess. We have Donkey Kong Country. This is another cult classic. Considered one of the best looking games, one of the best games for the Super Nintendo. I really need to play this one more. This one I've heard a lot of good things about. I've played a good amount of it and I've enjoyed it. But I think I need to really give this one a chance on official hardware, or at least like through the Super Nintendo, because I could play through Switch Online, but it wouldn't be the same as I mentioned before. But this one is a lot of fun. It has a banger soundtrack, and obviously, you know, Donkey Kong is one of the more, or is one of the series, I guess you could say, at least the mainline games, not counting the spin-offs. The Donkey Kong Country games, though, are I consider some of the best 2D platformers, and this one has definitely one of the best. Obviously, next, I don't have Donkey Kong Country 2, but we do have Donkey Kong Country 3, Dixie Kong's Double Trouble. This is one I don't have any experience with, if I'm being honest. I got it at the Retro Game Store when I was there, actually earlier as of this recording today. I got it when I was there, and it's one of those player choice ones, so, you know, that's fun. Thankfully, they're not as noticeable as the GameCube ones. You can kind of see, I might do a little close-up in the editing, but there's like a nice gold on there, so that's how you can kind of tell, because usually it'd be red, but for this one, and I have another one I think as well that's like that. But for the Nintendo like player choice ones, they have nice gold, which it's not super noticeable, but it kind of stands out when you're looking at the collection up close. So, you know, I've heard this one's a pretty good one. I think it's maybe considered one of the weakest, or maybe it's considered the strongest in the trilogy for the Super Nintendo. I don't know. But I've heard this one's pretty decent. But moving on, we have Kirby's Avalanche. This one I thought was a Kirby game, but it turns out it's like a Puyo Puyo type game. It's like a puzzle game. Maybe this is Puyo Puyo. I don't know. But I got kind of clickbaited, or I guess I was just dumb and didn't research the game beforehand. But it's a fine enough game. I didn't spend too much money to get this one, so you know I wasn't upset that it didn't end up being just a normal 2D Kirby game. It's one of the Kirby games that exist. I don't have much else to say for this one. But up next we have big jump in the alphabet. We have Star Fox. This one I've played again very little of, but it is one of the more powerful games I think on the Super Nintendo. I think like it's the Super FX chip or something that was in the console. Whatever the inner workings are, I am not a nerd like that. I don't know all the inner workings. But this game was like kind of like pseudo 3D in a way where it kind of looked 3D, but it obviously wasn't 3D. But it was like kind of a 3D environment, which was kind of cool. Definitely had a time of it, but again, I don't really have much I could say about this one because it is Star Fox. The series fell off way back then, so there's not much else to say about that. Anyways, moving on, we have Super Mario All-Stars. Again, another one I actually just got today. I obviously have all the other games besides the Lost Levels, but like this is kind of like the definitive way to play all of them because you have 4 in one package. But this is Nintendo's first compilation of Mario games, where you have 4 games in one package. There's also the Super Mario World edition, which had the 4 games plus Super Mario World in the same package. But I just got the original because I already have Mario World. We'll get to that later. But this is like the definitive way, as mentioned before, to play the original Mario games if you don't want to deal with the clunkiness of the other ones. Obviously, the first one in Lost Levels, but I think it has like redone music for all the games. It has a new art style for all the games. So just overall, I think they just look better, at least for the most part. I haven't really touched Super Mario Bros. 2 or 3 on there. I've only played the Lost Levels and SMB 1. So I can't really say much, but it's a great way to play the old games if you want to just have them all in one cartridge instead of having to get three or 4 separate ones. But moving on, we have this is the other Player's Choice one I was talking about earlier. We have Super Mario Kart. Again, it has the yellow label, but first introduction to the Mario Kart series, obviously. It has the funny super name that all of the Super Nintendo games have on them, because the first Mario Kart game could not just been called Mario Kart, it has to be Super Mario Kart. But The controls, again, clunky as hell because it is the first Mario Kart game. They didn't know how to make the controls good. And the track selection, bottom of the barrel, garbage. There's, like, I can't name a single track besides maybe Rainbow Road that's, like, kind of interesting because they're all basically the same. Like, 4 variants of Mario Circuit, there's 3 of Bowser's Castle, obviously 1 Rainbow Road, I think there's like 3 Donut Plains, 2 Vanilla Lakes, 2 Koopa Beaches, 3, what are they called? 2 Choco Islands, and 3 Ghost Valleys. It's taking all the locations from Super Mario World, making them Mario Kart tracks, calling it a day, not making them much different from each other. So that's why this game gets a bad rep. Obviously, you know, it's not the worst game ever, but it's definitely not a Mario Kart game I'm going to go back to anytime soon. But it was such a novelty to have. As you know, I think it's just kind of cool to have Mario Kart games physically and being able to play them on official hardware or on their original hardware. I just think that's kind of cool because it's kind of the intended way to play them. And you know, just seeing like the Mario Kart series evolve over time, it's a nice, fun thing to do. You wouldn't understand it unless like done it, but I think it's fun to go back, experience the original versions of the games, just kind of move forward, see how good they've gotten over the years. This one certainly is the bottom of the barrel, though. Up next, we got, as I mentioned earlier, Super Mario Bros. 3 wasn't my favorite 2D Mario game. Super Mario World. Replayed this one recently. I think I replayed it when I was on my flight to, I think Las Vegas was. I replayed this game on the NSO app, for the Super Nintendo NSO app. And it was just as fun as it was before. Like, this game has, like, peak Mario level design. Like, each level feels different. Each level is just, like, crafted so well. And it's just, like, overall, like, the quality of this game is what I really hope that we can get with Super Mario Bros. Wonder coming out later this year. Because, like, this game just, like... Obviously, the boss fights aren't, you know, super interesting. But this game has, like, some of, like, the... Like, this game, just, like, the quality of it is just, like, the best. I love the music, I love the level design, I love how it controls. It controls really nice. And there's just so many secrets in this game that, you know, just make it kind of really unique compared to the ones that came before it. And since it was on the Super Nintendo, they could do more with it. So, obviously, the Koopalings return. But I love, like, I just, like, love everything about this game. If I were to show anyone a 2D Mario game, this is the one I'd show them. Even though it's like 30-something years old at this point, this game is just like magnificent. There's just no other way to put it. Moving on from all the Super Mario shenanigans, we have Super Metroid. I think this one was like the most expensive Super Nintendo game I have because this one was like $70 when I got it, which is the same price I paid for Tears of the Kingdom. And, like, I've heard that this one is, like, the best 2D Metroid game, maybe outside Metroid Dread. But before Dread and, like, other remakes or whatever, I've heard that this one is, like, the best. Because, like, it has, like, great controls, great, like, layouts for the levels or whatever. So, I guess if you're a Metroid fan, this is probably one to get. I don't have any personal experience with it because I haven't really played the Metroid games. I want to get into the series before Metroid Prime 4 comes out. But I've heard this one's like a really good one to start with. So for you Metroid, like people that want to get into the Metroid series, I suggest picking this one up if you can, or play it through NSO. Because I've heard really great things about this. We got Super Punch-Out next. Obviously a sequel to the to Mike Tyson's Punch-Out over on the NES, which I unfortunately haven't been able to find yet. But I don't remember if it's this one or if it's the other one. I know the Wii one's like regarded as like probably the best of this series, but I've heard good things about this one as well. I've heard that, you know, Punch-Out gameplay, it's Punch-Out. It's basically the same, like throughout the games as far as I know of. But the gameplay it's fun. It's like, I think it's like kind of rhythm, or like kind of like predicting your opponent's movement or something. But again, if you're if you want to collect Super Nintendo games, I think this is like one of the must-haves because you know it has Little Mac, and everyone loves a Little Mac. Who doesn't love Little Mac? But again, I've heard it's a good game. I still need to play it though. But that's that. Next, We have The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. I think this is like one of the like games that are like definitely in the most like rough shape I have, because like the box art's kind of like off there or whatever. Unfortunately, that's just how it was. But it wasn't too expensive, so you know it wasn't like a steal. It wasn't like, you know, I got ripped off or whatever. But I've heard this one's a pretty good one, a pretty good 2D Zelda game. I think it's considered one of the best. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I don't know. I haven't really played 2D Zelda games. But I'm pretty sure this is one like considered one of the best because like I think Link Between Worlds is like a sequel to this one. And that's regarded as like the best 2D Zelda game. So I'm guessing this one isn't far behind as being like one of the best 2D Zelda games. But I think this was the only Zelda game that released on the Super Nintendo. So if you want to play Zelda games on the Super Nintendo, obviously this one's the way to do it. I think there's only one more. Yep, there's only one game left, which of course is Yoshi's Island. You know, you can't have a Super Nintendo without this game. Again, like Super Mario World, I think this is like one of the best platformers that are on the Super Nintendo, or just like one of the best 2D platformers in general. Like the art style for this one looks super good. I really like how it looks, like especially for the Super Nintendo. This game looks really good. I really kind of like the hand-drawn kind of aesthetic of it. And just like the world of Yoshi's Island, I don't know how to explain it, but it's just like really vibrant, it's really colorful. I really like it. I like the art style of it. And the gameplay itself as well, like fighting as Yoshi with the flutter, and just like having more open levels, similar to like the Donkey Kong Country games, I guess you could say, or maybe Rayman Legends, I don't know. But having more open levels where you kind of have the ability to explore is what makes this game like pretty like magical. And well, obviously, you know, it has Baby Mario. It's like the origin story for Mario and Luigi right here. This is their game. This is the game that kind of shows them, like, where they came from, I guess you could say. But this is definitely one of my favorite Super Nintendo games. It's one of my favorite 2D platformers, I think. So that's it for the Super Nintendo. Definitely one of my larger collections that we have. As you can tell, there's a good amount of games there. A lot of them still missing though, like F-Zero. I think that's about it actually. I can't really think of anything else. I'm definitely missing F-Zero. And I think there's Chrono Trigger, that's another one that people like, or Earthbound. That's one. Mother 2, Earthbound, whatever it's called. That's another one I've heard like a lot of people like, yeah, that's a must-have for the Nintendo 64. Or not the 64, the Super Nintendo. But moving on from the consoles from now, we obviously have the Game Boy. This big, bulky piece of plastic. The one I have, it's kind of yellowed, you can kind of tell. But it's it's obviously really bulky. The screen is not the best. It worked for the time, but the green screen, wonderful screen. But this was Nintendo's first handheld outside of the Game & Watch. And I have a few games for it as well. We obviously had the Game Boy Advance, the superior version. Unfortunately, I don't have the SP. I think the SP would be kind of cool to have, but I have the OG Game Boy Advance. I really like the design. It's nice, iconic. It obviously has the iconic startup sound. But I don't really have many Game Boy or Game Boy Advance games because, well, they're kind of annoying to collect because there's just not a good way to store them. But the ones I do have are the Pokemon ones. So we got Pokemon Red right here. You know, first Pokemon game. Obviously, it was good for what it was, but just moving forward, obviously the games get better until we get to the Switch. But it is home to my favorite starter, Charmander. So you know that still has a plus for that. Obviously, next we got Pokemon Gold for Gen 2. Don't have much else to say about this one except for it's better than Gen 1 because it is on better hardware. It was on for the Game Boy Color. I think you can maybe play it on the Game Boy, just the regular Game Boy as well. It just wouldn't be in color, obviously. But I've heard it's a decent enough game. I don't have much else to say about it. And then we got Pokemon Ruby right here. Definitely the most pricey of the bunch because it is for the Game Boy Advance, and it is a Pokemon game. Probably one of my most pricey games in my collection. But I got these back in 2020, or maybe it was 2021, I don't remember for sure, but I got these a couple years ago during COVID, and I heard that prices for these games were pretty bad then, so I think I picked a really bad time to start collecting Pokemon games. But that's besides the point. Moving back to consoles, however, we do have the Nintendo 64, obviously moving up to the next one. The first 3D system, I think, ever, maybe? Maybe that was the Sega Saturn? I don't remember what it was called. It has the iconic, like, Nintendo logo on here. You see all those nerds walking around with the Nintendo 64 shirt. This is the console, obviously, that originated from. A great console, it has some pretty great games. Obviously, not all of them have aged well, compared to, you know, maybe the Super Nintendo, but it's still a great console to have around. It has some really fun games, which obviously we're going to get into. Starting, I think, with, yep, the piss yellow one itself. Donkey Kong 64. Yep, we got that game right here. This is actually, I think, the most recent one in my collection. And I do have, like, these little labels I got from, like, was it, like, Etsy or something? I don't remember exactly. Maybe it was, like, Mercury or something. But I got little labels for games just so that they're easier to, like, you know, have in my collection. I've heard of this one. It's a mixed bag. Obviously, it has the iconic DK wrap, so, like, you can't go wrong with that. But I've just heard it's, like, kind of clunky. But I thought this game would be kind of funny to have because, you know, the DK wrap, and just, I think it'd be kind of fun to play it eventually. I don't know when I'll get to it, but when I do get to it, I think it'd be kind of fun to do. Plus, it's the only, like, different colored other than the iconic gray cartridge that I have. So, you know, it's just kind of nice to have that there because it really sticks out like a sore thumb. Moving on from Donkey Kong 64, we got another 64 game with Mario Kart 64. Great step up in quality from Super Mario Kart, but this one is still pretty clunky itself. It's the tracks obviously could have done a little bit better because I don't think Mario Kart really peaked in the track design until Double Dash. But I mean, the tracks aren't necessarily bad here. There's a few stinkers, and I think the Rainbow Road, outside of the funniness of it being the longest track in all of Mario Kart, I think this Rainbow Road is probably the worst in the series because it has no guardrail, or it has full guardrails, and the only way that you could possibly get, like, stopped if you're in first place is if you get hit by one of the chain chops. But it does have the funny jump at the beginning. I've been able to pull it off a few times. So, like, that saves you a little bit of time. But other than that, the only track I can really think of that's, like, I really remembered is obviously Calamari Desert with the train. We have Choco Mountain with, obviously, you know, the mountain. And then this Bowser's Castle is one of my favorites. But other than that, not too many great tracks in here. Not bad per se, but they're just not, like, you know, top tier for the most part. But, you know, that's just me. People that grew up with this game would beg to differ. But still a step up from Super Mario Kart. Next we got the first ever Mario Party. Obviously just called Mario Party. This one I don't have much nostalgia for. It's Mario Party 2 I have more nostalgia for because I played it on the Wii Virtual Console with some friends back in the day. So, like, because of that, I think I consider it, like, my favorite, well, one of my favorite Mario Party games, even though, like, objectively there's better ones. But, you know, this is a decent start to the series. It was full BS at the beginning. It wasn't until, like, Mario Party 2 where they got the thing straight. But this is, like, this is, like, the, home to that mini game that Nintendo had to issue gloves to people to, because of the, thumbstick incident where, like, people would, like, I think it was, like, burn, like, get, like, something, like, would happen to the palm of their hand because they would, like, spam it to win the mini game. And because of that, Nintendo got, like, sued or something. It's because of the rubber on the joystick. But this game, obviously iconic. It's the start to the Mario Party series. And this is, like, one of the series, even though it had its fall off with Mario Party 9, 10, and Super Mario Party, it was one of the peak Nintendo, like, party games. So, you know, gotta give it credit for being the first of its kind. The next one we got here is Pokemon Stadium. You know, honestly, like, funny story, completely out of, like, just, like, random. But when I was at the game store today, when I went to go get some more games or whatever, I saw this one and I was like, I don't remember if I had this one or not. So thankfully I didn't pick it up again because that would be kind of annoying to have 2 Pokemon Stadium copies. But this is another one I haven't really played much of. I heard it's a fun enough game. I think I might give it a try sometime just to see what I think. But it's a Pokemon game on the Nintendo 64. There's 2 of them in this series. It's fine enough, I guess. I don't know. Pokemon is not really my franchise, especially since the Switch games came out, but back in the day, they definitely were better quality, so I wouldn't be surprised if this one ends up being fun when I play it. Speaking of probably not fun, but maybe fun, I don't know, we got another Star Fox game. Of course, we got Star Fox 64. This is the last Star Fox game we'll see in the collection, because, well, I don't have the the joy to go out and go collect every Star Fox game. Even though the series doesn't have many games, they're just not the greatest of games. I think this one is more so like similar to the first game. Obviously, it's on better hardware, so they can have better level design or whatever. But it's more of the first game, I think, from maybe what I know. But still, I saw it. It wasn't a bad price, and I wanted to grow my N64 collection with games I think I'd maybe eventually play and give it a try. I think this one I might give it a chance sometime. But it's more Star Fox. So, if you're a Star Fox fan, if you're a fan of the Star Fox gameplay, there you go. You got more Star Fox right here. The next one we have right here, actually, is probably the most iconic video game of all time. The one that basically defines 3D games in general, Super Mario 64. This one, I love it to death, but it really pissed me off when I streamed it, which is why you haven't seen Super Mario 64 streams in a while. I was gonna do like a playthrough of this game where I collect 70 stars, beat final boss or whatever. But since, I didn't grow up with this game at times would piss me off. It has great level design though. It has great levels. It's an iconic game. And it's really fun to speedrun. I've tried it a few times, didn't get far. But also a lot of fun to speedrun. So this is definitely a must-have if you get a Nintendo 64. This is the game to get for the Nintendo 64. Because, it's Mario. It's the first 3D Mario, especially. This is just where it peaks right here. While we're talking about iconic games, we gotta obviously talk about the start of the Super Smash Bros. Series. Super Smash Bros. For the Nintendo 64. Start to it all. Nintendo's biggest crossover fighter. The biggest crossover fighter of all time, in fact. All started with this one right here. This one, definitely, out of the bunch, definitely aged probably the worst because, well, it is on the 64. This is when Nintendo was still trying to figure out 3D type games and, maybe fighting games. But it's still a fun game nonetheless. Beating up Pikachu as my boy Luigi. Who could go wrong with that? This game, even though it's kind of clunky compared to the other ones, still a lot of fun. Because, Smash Bros. Is never not fun. And then finally, for our last of the cartridge-based games, we have The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. This one, I think, is considered one of the greatest games of all time. Because I guess this is the one that's defines what a 3D adventure-type game should be. Because, obviously, it's the first of the Legend of 3D Zelda games, so, it started somewhere, and I heard that it really started well. I didn't really ever get far in this one. I tried it a little bit. Obviously, like I said before, it's a little clunky compared to the more modern games, but if I get past that, I'm sure I'll enjoy it. And it has some great locations. I think it has a pretty good story from what I know. And, well, it's Ocarina of Time. You can't go wrong with Ocarina of Time. It is, again, considered one of the greatest games of all time. Maybe not in my eyes yet, but if I play this game and I enjoy it, I might be one of those I consider one of the greatest games. Moving on to more, I guess, modern type consoles, we have, obviously, starting off, we have the GameCube, which I need to be careful with. So, obviously, the GameCube is quite literally a cube. But, you might notice that there's a little something down here. We'll kind of get into that later. But, this one has the most iconic of the startup, maybe besides, this Mario 64 sound effect. This has like the iconic Nintendo startup sound with the GameCube logo showing up, which is, you know, a charm. And obviously, you know, I'll probably show this later, but the discs were smaller. If you played with the GameCube, you know that. But the first of the things I have for this is the Game Boy Player startup disc. This one was probably the most expensive thing I have here. But basically, the this thing down here, that, you know, I'm like right down here, this is the Game Boy Player. But in order to be able to use the Game Boy Player, you have to put the disc in there, which was the expensive part of it. Like, the Game Boy Player itself wasn't the expensive part, it was the disc. So, spent about like $200 on the disc alone. Maybe it wasn't that much, but I spent a good amount of money on the disc. But I think this would be like a good way to be able to play Game Boy games, Game Boy Advance games, you know, all the Game Boy library of games on like the big screen in a legitimate way. Let's not switch online and maybe get gameplay. I don't know if I'd use this for gameplay, to be honest, because like the quality of the GameCube obviously is in HD. So if I want to play authentically though on a console, the Game Boy Player is the way to do it. Up next, we probably have my best game, my favorite game in my entire collection. We have Karaoke Revolution Party. Yeah, this game is peak. No, in all seriousness, I only really got this game because I needed to get a new case. I needed to get a case for a game that I got, which we'll get into that game in a little bit. But like the game, I don't know if you can see, but the case right here is kind of like ripped. And I was like, yeah, I want to get a better case, so I just looked to see like what GameCube games were cheap. So I went with this one. So, you know, yay, I got a karaoke game for the GameCube. Don't have the microphone, so I can't play it. Oh no. But as I mentioned before, the GameCube discs are pretty tiny. I guess this one has the novelty of having the manual in there, because, you know, I totally want a karaoke game manual. I don't have much else to say about this one. It is just a karaoke game for the GameCube. What can you really say about a karaoke game for the GameCube? Next, another one I probably can't really talk much about because I haven't really played it much, but we got Mario Golf Toadstool Tour. I think this is like considered, besides maybe the 3DS one, this is like I don't know if that was the one or if it was a different one, but I think this one was like considered one of the best ones for the GameCube, or one of the best Mario Golf games in the series. It's obviously better than Super Rushed for the Switch, but again, I don't have much else to say about it, but I've heard good things about this one. Like I mentioned with a lot of the games I've mentioned before, I've said this way too much. But I'll give this one a try eventually. I'm just not like a super big fan of the Mario Sports games, but I saw this one. I saw it wasn't like super expensive, and again, it has the manual. So I was like, you know what, this would be kind of a cool one to have in my collection. So I got it. One that I have played a shit ton of though, maybe not on the GameCube specifically, but I've played a good amount of, and I love to death, is Mario Kart Double Dash. This one has slowly like been gaining on me. I used to think of it as like, yeah, you know, this is a fine Mario Kart game. It was like near the bottom of the list for me. But now that I've played it a good amount, this is probably my number 3 Mario Kart game behind Mario Kart Wii, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. This one, like, as the name implies, it has double the trouble, because you have 2 racers instead of 1, so there's double the items going around. And it's just a lot of fun. Besides the Mushroom Cup in 150cc. Baby Park especially. Like, I hate that track with a passion. But this is definitely where Mario Kart started peaking. This is when, like, we got great levels, like, or great tracks, like Mushroom Bridge. We had, like, DK Mountain. I guess you could say Donald Dino Jungle. I know that one's, like, a fan favorite. But this is, like, when Mario Kart truly started reaching its peak. And it just goes uphill for the most part from here. But again, this is one that I have the manual for, and then that's where I have my GameCube. What is it called? My GameCube memory card. Double Dash, one of my favorite games, probably my favorite game on the GameCube, in fact, because it's just so much fun to play. Speaking of fun to play, I guess you could say Metroid Prime 2 Echoes is fun to play. I don't have the first one actually. I don't know why I never got the first one. I guess since it is on the Switch, I never had a desire to get it. I did get this one before the first got to the Switch, though. But I've played a little bit of this one. Again, it's one of those that I have the manual for. I think I have the manual for all of them, besides maybe one game. But I think this is like the first GameCube game I actually got. So, you know, it has the novelty of being that. But I do want to try the Prime series, especially, like, again, before Prime comes up, Prime 4 comes out. Because I've heard that these are, like, some of the best games ever. So, you know, I want to test that theory, see if that's true. But, again, I don't have much experience with Metroid. But I do want to get into the series eventually. So, you know, just let me know if there's any games I should start with. For those of you Metroid fans out there. But I've heard good things about this one, again. Saying this way too much. This one, a lot of fun. From what I've played. It controls well. It looks great for the GameCube. So, you know, I'm going to say it's a fun game. Speaking of fun, at least for kind of the most part, we got Mario Kart, or Super Mario Sunshine, not Mario Kart, Super Mario Sunshine. This one is kind of like considered the oddball of the 3D Marios. It's either you love it or you hate it, I feel, with people. For me, I'm just kind of in the middle. I haven't played enough of it. Yeah, this is the one I don't have the manual for. Oh no, sue me. It has a nice vibe to it. It's definitely one of the best looking GameCube games, I think. And obviously it's Mario, so you're gonna have some sort of fun. But those stupid blue coins, the stupid pachinko machine, I think that's what it's called. Those literally could just go burn in hell. I don't care. Those just aren't fun. But other than that, I think this game's a fine enough time. Again, I'm kind of just mixed on it. I don't have like solid opinions on this game. It's fun for its peak, but when it's at its lowest, it sucks ass. But the final of the GameCube games. This is the one I got that karaoke game for the case. We got Super Smash Bros. Melee. This one actually wasn't the most expensive for me because the value of it, as you can see in the little corner here. Thankfully, it was just the corner, but we got a nice little rip in the box art, which is unfortunate. But you know, the rest of it's intact, which is great. Again, we had the manual, we had the disc, all that jazz. But this game, it's fun. It's basically Ultimate, except for, you know, if it was more competitive and if it had way less characters. So, you know, take that with what you will. But I think this would be a fun one to play with friends. You know, if I have like friends over or whatever. I need to get more GameCube controllers to be able to do so, but I think this would be a fun one to play with friends just because, you know, none of us have really played Melee. So, you know, maybe I would have an equal opportunity to win as the rest of them because, you know, maybe I'll have a little bit more experience in Melee. Because when it comes to other Smash games like Smash Ultimate, I just kind of can never win. So, you know, maybe with Melee, I'll start being able to win. This game, I think, is one of the... it's a lot of people's favorite. Because like they grew up with it, or other competitive Smash players. So this is like a fan favorite with the Smash series. For me, it's not quite there yet. It's like my top one, or my top couple. It might actually be in my top 3. I don't know, but it's certainly a fun game when you play it. Moving on, we have the DS games, which I don't have many of, to be honest. Even though like this right here, this DSi I have right here actually was my first ever system I got. I think I got it like, I want to say like Christmas of 2011. This was like my first system I was able to call my own. Because, you know, we'll get into the Wii later, but this one, like this DS, I didn't have to share with anyone. So, you know, it was like my own kind of personal gaming system I was able to play on the go or at home when I didn't want to play with, you know, everyone else. This was like my kind of go-to, and I have so many memories with this. So, you know, I'm kind of glad that I was able to find this because I lost it for a few years, but I ended up being in the back room in the house. So I was able to find it, recover it, and it still had battery somehow, which I was surprised about. And these things never die. Like, if you don't use them, even years later, these things just don't die. I've noticed that with this. So, you know, that's kind of cool. Just going to quickly kind of briefly go over it. This is the special edition 25th anniversary Mario DSi XL. I actually got this recently. This is probably my most recent purchase in terms of like handhelds and consoles. Because I saw this for like, it was like $80 something. And like I look on eBay and it's like selling at like 115 or something. So I was like, you know what? This is a good deal. It's in pretty good condition. And obviously it's bigger. So if I want to do like gameplay, like authentic DS gameplay, this would be the way to do it. Because it has a bigger screen, it has a nicer screen. and it just looks really nice. I really like the inside, just like the red. It just looks really good. And obviously, you know, I'm a Mario fan, so like the special edition right here, it was perfect for me. And like in the future, I definitely think it could be worth a good amount of money if I ever wanted to sell it. Obviously, I probably won't anytime soon, but if it ever comes to the time, this would be a good one to, you know, this one could be worth a good amount of money. Anyways, moving on to the DS games themselves, we have Pokemon Pearl right here, Pokemon Pearl version. This one, it's not the definitive way to play Gen 4, you know, Diamond Pearl. They have their ups and downs. This is probably one of the better ones, though, in the series. I think Platinum is, like, probably the peak, obviously, because it has all the content. It's, like, the definitive way to play Gen 4. But Gen 4 is, like, probably one of the best ones in the series. So, you know, I had to get this one. Again, I got this during COVID times. But I have the manual, I got all that jazz in there. The Wi-Fi fun stuff. And then, obviously, we got the cartridge itself right here. You know, nice and tiny. The other one I have, like, the case for, which I really need to get rid of this, is Sonic Classic Collection. This has all the Genesis games, so we got Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, and Knuckles on there. And I think this is, like, because, you know, Sonic Origins just isn't really a great way to play those games. I think this is probably my best way to play them all. Because, you know, it's just the traditional experience. It's the normal experience again. Obviously, we got the cartridge right here. And, it doesn't have all those alterations that the, and all the glitches that the Sonic Origins version has. So, again, I gotta get rid of these I think they're GameStop. Are they GameStop? Hold on. I'm pretty sure this is GameStop, yeah. I gotta get rid of these GameStop stickers. But this is, I think, the first game I got from my DSi. So, and I remember I didn't know how to, like, start the games. So, like, because I didn't know, like, you know, you had to push start because I was dumb. So, like, I would be stuck on the menus and I'm like, why isn't the game playing? Why can't I play Sonic? But I think this is, like, probably, at least on handheld, this is, like, one of the best ways to play. We do have a couple more DS games. Got them in this nice little DS game cartridge like holder. We first got Scribblenauts. I know this game was pretty fun. I don't know how well you can see it. This game was pretty fun. You obviously, like, write down the name of something and then it'll spawn it in. And there's, like, missions in there. I don't remember this one too well. I remember it being a fun game though. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt, I guess. But a game I do remember really well is Mario Party DS, which we got right here. I really wish I had the case for this one. I know I had it back in the day, but I don't anymore, unfortunately. Which is, like, these games especially, I want to get, like, the cases for again so I can just, you know, display them here. But for now, they're just stuck in here. But I, like, specifically remember this one for the story mode. You know, this is, like, the first Mario Party. I think, like, one of the only Mario Parties, like, the traditional Mario Parties, not counting Mario Party Advance, like, has an actual story mode. And I don't know what it was about this story mode, but, like, I really liked it. So, like, I'm, like, back in the day, I made, like, this is just a complete side rant here. But back in the day, I made, like, Minecraft comics with some friends of mine. And one of my storylines for my character was basically a copy and paste of Mario Party DS's story mode. So, you know, my character, like, he fell for a trap, and then he became shrunk. And then, I guess eventually later, it was like, there was, like, a second storyline, like, a continuation to this, where it was, like, kind of, like, rinse and repeat. But instead of, like, you know, being cursed with it, my character, like, gained the powers of being able to shrink or whatever. So, kind of Ant-Man before I knew what Ant-Man was. But this game's a lot of fun. It has really good mini-games. I enjoyed the mini-games on here. It's definitely the best, I think, of the Mario Party, like, handheld, or, yeah, the handheld Mario Party games. So, you know, there's that. We have a few more on the other side. We have Cars 2. To be honest, this movie, I don't remember whether or not I like it. But this game I remember playing a shit ton of because, like, there was a story mode in there. And I thought it was just, like, the shit. I thought this, like, story mode was just, like, so good and so fun. So I played it. I remember, like, I play as, like, what was his name? Finn McMissile, that's his name. And I play as him and, like, swerve around the bad guy base, making sure I don't get caught. And then there's also, like, those major missions or something like going to Germany, going to Italy or something. I don't remember. But, and there was obviously, just traditional racing with like Lightning McQueen or whatever. Yeah, if I'm being honest, I don't remember this game well. I don't remember anything about it. But it exists. It was I think it was one of my favorite games on the DS back in the day when like I was like really obsessed with cars. But nowadays, I don't remember it well. But speaking of the topic of cars, next we got probably my favorite of the DS games I have, Mario Kart DS. I think everyone has already like praised this game for its Nitro selection and just shit on this game's Retro selection. And like, praise mission mode and whatever. But like this is like genuinely like when it comes to Mario Kart games with content, this is definitely like one of the most filled with content because you have the mission modes, trying to get 3 stars on those. You have obviously 32 tracks. And then just like, this is like the first one you could play battle mode with computers too. So, and it has like one of the best battle modes in the series as well, having banger retro selection with like Block Fort, Pipe Plaza. We got those. And then like even like the Nitro selection, while not as strong for the battle tracks or the battle courses, still pretty solid, like Twilight House. But this game, I probably played like the most of on my DS. Being able to play it whenever I feel like it, it's just great time. That's the wonderful world of the DS. I definitely need to get more games for it. Again, if you have suggestions, let me know. Obviously, New Super Mario Bros. Is one I want to get for the DS. I don't even know why I don't have a copy of it, but that is one I do want to get. Because like that's just a cult classic. There's that Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story. That's one I want to get. I do have that. We'll get into that later. I want to get the original. That one was a really fun time. But moving on from the DS, we have the most iconic, most best-selling Nintendo system, I think, besides the Switch, the Wii. Obviously, this Wii has probably seen better days, but this is the Wii I grew up with, which is like why I haven't like ever decided to mod it, because I don't want to risk losing all my childhood by doing something stupid with it and like messing something up. But like this is like the most iconic, and like this is the console I have the most nostalgia for, because playing Mario Kart Wii, New Super Mario Bros. Wii, Smash Brawl, all those games is like kind of what shapes me into the gamer I am today. So, just still having the same Wii I had in my childhood, it just something about it, just like, I don't know, I can't explain the feeling, but it's a great feeling, knowing that I still have, the Wii of my childhood. Now, in terms of games for the Wii, we got, again, probably one of my biggest selection of games. We got Battalion War. To be honest, I only have this one because I asked people like which games I should get rid of for the Wii just to clear space, because I had a lot of shovelware for the Wii originally. I could have kept them, but I didn't. But we got Battalion Wars 2. Heard that this is kind of like similar to the Advance Wars series in a way, but it's Nintendo made, so there's that, and it's rated T, so obviously this game's badass. Yeah, again, I don't really remember this one, so I don't really have much else to say about it. But I do know decent amount of Donkey Kong Country Returns. Probably one of the best platformers here on the Wii. A lot of fun, great level design, and it was a great return to Donkey Kong as a series. Because as the name implies, this is the return to Donkey Kong Country. Great way to do it. I think what holds this one down for me is that it requires motion controls for some of the movements, which is kind of dumb, but it is what it is. Still one of the greatest games on the Wii, regardless of the motion controls. But that's just the Wii's gimmick, so you can't really give this one, you can't really knock points off this one because it has motion controls. From Donkey Kong Country Returns, we have, again, probably one of my favorite Mario Kart games of all time. We got Mario Kart Wii. I don't think if I showed the case or the disc for these ones, but these are like normal size discs now. So Nintendo, they got smart. They became modern and they got full size disc now. But again, this is like one of the best games I've ever played. Probably the game I was spending the most hours on in my childhood, besides probably Minecraft, was this one. Just because of, it's Mario Kart. It's Mario Kart Wii. Who didn't want to play Mario Kart Wii, especially because of the Wii Wheel? That was the big thing with this one, was the Wii Wheel. It was in the promotion, it was, you know, everyone's reason to get this game, which is why it was the best-selling Mario Kart game until Mario Kart 8 Deluxe came around. But still, like, there was a reason everyone might love this one, and it's because of the great Nitro selection. It had a pretty good retro selection for the most part. The battle mode had great tracks, but it sucked ass because you had to be on teams with CPUs, and it was a mess. But, you know, this is still, like, the peak of Mario Kart. This is, like, Mario Kart at its greatest because of just how great the selection of tracks that we got, and just, like, the character selection. It's, like, just overall, like, one of the best Mario Kart experiences you can get outside of maybe Deluxe with the Booster Course Pass. Because, like, the 32 tracks you have, sure, there are some stinkers like DS Yoshi Falls or GBA Shy Guy Beach, but, like, the Nitro selection really makes up for that weak retro, like, those few weak retro selections. And like I said, there's some banger retros as well, such as, like, N64 Bowser's Castle, GCN DK Mountain, or even, like, DS Delfino Square. That's what's called, right? Yeah, it's the DS Delfino Square. Or DS Peach Gardens. Like, there's some stinkers in there, sure. That's just what you're gonna get with every Mario Kart game. But this one has, like, probably, like, one of the most solid lineup of Nitros and Retros there are. Besides maybe Mario Kart 7's Retros. Like, that probably has the best Retros. But this has, like, probably the best Nitros in the entire series. On the topic of Mario, we got a lot more Mario to cover here. We got Mario Super Sluggers. I think I had the manual for this one. Still, surprisingly. But again, this is one I faintly remember. I know it was fun to play, and, like, I'm just scared because I remember it being fun to play when Nintendo does inevitably make Mario Sluggers with the Switch or the next system, whatever. Maybe they're gonna absolutely butcher it. So, like, Nintendo, please just leave this in the past, at least for now, until you figure out how to make good frickin' Switch sports games. Because, like, this one's a classic. Like, this one is, like, I think this is, like, probably, like, considered one of the greatest sports games on the Wii, or just, like, one of the best Mario sports games in general. Next, we have the start to, you know, everyone's favorite series, the new Super Mario Bros. Series. The only red case game that I have, actually. Obviously, because, you know, it is new Super Mario Bros. But I gotta say, this one is probably, like, the 2D Mario game I've spent the most time on, just because, like, you know, playing with friends, playing with family, playing by myself, this game, like, sure, the levels are, like when you're playing by yourself, they're kind of, like, big and barren, but, like, the levels are, like, still really solid in general. Like, that final boss was probably my one of my favorites in, like, 2D, like, gaming history. Like, big, like, Bowser becoming big, like, sure, we've seen that, like, 1,000 times at this point. Well, like, this was, like, the first game that truly did that, where he became big and he chased you, and it was just, like, adrenaline inducing. And, like, the music as well, it was great, like, for that final battle. So, like, this game definitely has, like, the points for being, you know, kind of my introduction to 2D Mario, and also just, like, having, like, a really great final boss. Like, you know, you're just making your way through the level, you beat him, and then you're like, oh, I beat Bowser, I beat the final boss. That's amazing. Just for Peach to end up being Kamek, and then makes Bowser big, and then he chases you through this like gauntlet, while, like, you know, you're, like, like, your hands are sweating, holding the Wii remote because you don't want to die. There's just nothing that can, like, remake that experience for me. In terms of, like, final bosses, like, this was, like, probably one of my favorite final bosses of all time. So, like, you know, this game has a special place in my heart, even though it's, like, not my favorite 2D Mario anymore, because, you know, I've played Mario World. This is definitely one of the, like, games that defined my childhood right here. You know what, we'll just cover these two at the same time. We got Super Sleeper Galaxy 1 and 2. Sorry, Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2. There you go, Mario Galaxy fans. I called it correctly. I got a lot of comments, actually, on my Mario Wonder video. Just complete side rant again. I got a lot of comments of people being like, why did you call this game cringe? I get Rosalina's cringe, why did you call Mario Galaxy cringe? Well, my reason behind it is, like, sure, you know, the game looks nice. It looks really good for the Wii. It has great music, but the gameplay is kind of like, I don't know. Because, like, these games, okay, they're not bad games. Obviously, the cringe thing's a bit, just a bit for the channel, for the funnies, just because, you know, I know people react about it. Feels like a lot of people call these games masterpieces. A lot of them call them life-changing. A lot of them say these are 10 out of 10 masterpieces that changed their life. I don't see it. If I'm being completely honest, I don't see it with Mario Galaxy. The gameplay, it's fine. You know, it's Mario in space. You know, it's dreams like that we would come up with as kids. And like, you know, seeing this happen was obviously cool. But like the gameplay, I feel was like really slow and sluggish compared to my what I like with Mario games, which obviously drags it down because, you know, it being sluggish, the entirety of the game is like Mario's movement is the most important thing in a Mario game. So like, you know, the levels aren't bad in this game. I just don't really like the movement, and like the story I think is fine. It definitely has more depth than like the rest of, you know, Mario games in general, but. And it's kind of cool that instead of like DLC, because you know, obviously DLC didn't happen, this game was just more Galaxy. So you know, the Galaxy fans were happy about that. But you know, these games just aren't like my type of Mario games. They're not bad games, obviously, but I'm not gonna scout the walls over here and be like, yeah, these games are masterpieces. Super Mario Galaxy changed my life. This game is a 10 out of 10 masterpiece. I'm not gonna be that guy, okay? I'm just gonna be honest here. I'm not gonna put on a fake persona because, you know, people want to see, you know, people praising Mario Galaxy. I think it's an alright game. Before I get canceled, let's move on to Super Paper Mario. You know, this one. Wow, I have the viewing game manual thing here. But this one, I got pretty far in. I watched a playthrough of this. I think like by the YouTuber Sully Poons or something. That's like what kind of introduced me to this game. And I thought it was like a brand new game when he played this. I think it was like, I want to say it was like 2016 or 2017 I got this game. I thought it was a brand new game. So I was like, you know what? For Christmas, I want Super Paper Mario for the Wii. Obviously, the Wii U was out. And maybe even the Switch. I don't remember exactly when I got this game. But I thought it was a brand new game for the Wii. And like, I really wanted to play this. And I got pretty far in it. I think I got to like World 4, and then I just couldn't figure out like, I guess it was Chapter 4, and then I just couldn't figure out the whole like which like wormhole to go into or something. I don't remember exactly what it was. I definitely want to replay this game sometime. I definitely want to finish it because it's a really fun game, and like, you know, you can play as frickin' Bowser, Peach, Luigi, and of course Mario, and they all have like their own special abilities. So like this game was like fun as hell, and like the story is like one of the best. Everyone praises the Thousand Year Door for having the best gameplay. I think people completely overlook Super Paper Mario because it feels like a traditional platformer type game. But everyone overlooks the story of this one. Like, you know, you got a villain who's like heartbroken or something. And so like, you know, he like becomes evil and like wants to like destroy the world. You know, typical villain stuff, destroy the world. But like all this is because, you know, like I think it was like his father or something said that he can like date this girl, and like she got turned into this the butterfly thingy that's on the box art. And then obviously, you know, at the end, everyone's saved, the world's saved, but like this is like definitely a darker tone of like a Paper Mario game, I guess you could say, because Mario quite literally goes to hell in this game. He goes to, I think it was like called the Underwear. I know, funny name. Laugh track it up. Insert laugh track here. There you go. Funny name. Underwear. But, you know, I really like this game. Unfortunately, I do have the Nintendo Deluxe Edition, which, you know, you can't really, well, you can kind of tell because there's the nice little thing on the spine. But, like, it's a fun game. I don't care that I have the Nintendo Deluxe Edition. It's a fun game. That's all I gotta say. Next, speaking of fun games, we got Smash Brawl. My introduction to the Smash Bros. Series. I don't have the box, or I don't have the manual for this one, unfortunately. But the Subspace Emissary, we really should have gotten Subspace Emissary 2 in Ultimate rather than, you know, World of Light. Fine enough. But Subspace Emissary was like peak Smash Bros. Right there. Like having cutscenes with all the characters and, you know, the first game having third-party characters in Smash. This was like you know, the start to like Smash becoming like this huge thing that everyone gets hyped for, because I know a lot of people when growing up with, like, you know, when this game got revealed, they like kept up with the Smash Bros website or something to like see new reveals with like Wario or Sonic or maybe Pit. I don't remember for sure. But like I know the hype around this game like releasing was like really insane. And like, you know, it's considered like one of the more slower Smash games, but like honestly the gameplay is still fun. It's Smash Bros. You can never go wrong with Smash Bros. And the addition of assist trophies with Waluigi, obviously, you know, being the most iconic, should still be in Smash. And just like the final Smash just added so much to the series. And like I just still wish we got Subspace Emissary 2 in the Ultimate. Maybe one day we'll get it Smash 6, I'm hoping we get Subspace Emissary 2. But next, we obviously got every Wii owner's favorite game, Wii Fit. I actually had the manual for that one, holy crap. You know, obviously, you know, you get fit with Wii Fit. You stand on the bounce board, it tells you your weight, or I guess, did it? I don't remember. But you get fit with the Wii Fit. There's just not much else. There's mini games in there that were pretty fun. I know there's like that running one or something, and I remember cheesing it by just like shaking the remote or something. It was a fun time. But, you know, this was like a good way to motivate people to be fit, because, you know, you could do it on the Wii while playing video games. And like, who would like that? But next on the Wii library, we have Wii Play. I remember playing this one a good amount, or a decent amount, especially like the tank one. But I don't really have much else to say for this. It's like a minigame compilation. Just nice, simple minigames to play on the Wii. To kind of show what the Wiimote and the Wii like motion controls are capable of doing. Like I said, I really like the tank one. That's the only one I really remember fully. But it's a good collection of minigames, I guess you could say. It's, you know, maybe not mind-blowing these days, but it's a fun game, I guess you could say. Definitely, like, mind-blowing, even to this day still, is Wii Sports. Quite literally the game that defines the Wii. Quite literally saved Nintendo, I guess you could say, because obviously the GameCube was failing and Nintendo needed to do something different. And this was the game that came with the Wii, so like basically every Wii owner got Wii Sports, which is why it's like one of the most sold games of all time. Unfortunately, as you can kind of tell, I don't have official box art for this game. I want to try to get like official box art eventually, but I just printed something out just so I had it, which is kind of why I'm like, you know, it doesn't look the best quality. But you know, we had the official game in there, obviously. But again, this is like a fun game to play with friends, play with family when you just want to goof around or something on the Wii. This would be like the go-to game because, you know, nice simple games that you could just pick up and just like stop playing whenever you feel like it. So, you know, nice simple pickup game. Still has charm, unlike some other Wii Sports game, which we'll get into. Most certainly not, though. The one I'm not talking about, though, is obviously Wii Sports Resort. Basically, it takes what we've got with Wii Sports, greatly improves on it with having a lot more content. We had, I think, bowling returned. Yeah, bowling returned in this one. So obviously, you know, you got some stuff from the old one. But it's more like centered around, you know, like kind of tropical type mini games and stuff. And I mean, you could fly around Woohoo Island, so that was cool as well. So, you know, again, another little novelty that the Wii had. And overall, like, the Wii had some really great games. I'm glad that this was the system I grew up with, because like this system, like, quite literally defined my childhood. Like, maybe not this game specifically, but like a lot of the games that I have here, do like quite literally define a lot of people's childhoods. So, you know, the Wii, like, probably one of the greatest systems of all time. There's no way, like, there's no denying that. Moving on to one of our last systems that we have here, we have the 3DS and obviously the 2DS. This is my like original 3DS XL I got. I think this was like for my birthday. Like, what? Okay, maybe the DSi was like 2010 or something, because I think this was like my birthday in 2012. I don't remember. Maybe it wasn't. I don't remember for sure. No, it would have been probably 2015. Because I think I got this for my golden birthday, which would have been 2015. But anyways, this is like the first system I had in my house that no one else had. And like, you know, obviously like this was like the new shit at the time. This was like the go-to Nintendo system because, you know, the Wii U was dying. And this was like basically what carried Nintendo through that generation because obviously, you know, the Wii U was a commercial failure. But, you know, of course, you know, it couldn't go it without 6 different freaking revisions. Similar to the TSI XL though, this is my most, like, one of my more recent of my, like, systems. I really do like the design of this one though, which is why I went with it over the new 3DS. Like, even though the new 3DS would have had 3D, I just really like the design of this. Like, this is such a clean design, which I think is plenty, because with the 2DS, versus the new 2DS XL, like the original 2DS was like the ugliest system that Nintendo's ever made. Seeing like just such a glow up with the 2DS was great. But obviously more importantly than the system is the games that it offers. And the first one we got here is Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. I actually got this game with my 2DS XL. This was the game I got with it. I haven't played much of it. I know it's coming to the Switch later this year. So I guess if I enjoy playing this one... No, it's next year. So I guess if I enjoy this one, maybe I'll get it for the Switch, but I just saw it was like $19. So, you know, I was just like, you know, why not get it? If it's gonna be on the Switch, and if it's a game it's not worth getting for the Switch, I might as well get it cheaper for the 3DS. As I mentioned earlier, I do have Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story. Not in the way you'd think. I have the 3DS remake, which quite literally was the death of Alpha Dream, unfortunately. But it was a fine enough remake. We didn't really need this, however. And like, I think this is like my most like game in terms of games that I have. This is definitely probably the most or the one I could turn on and get the most money from, because I think when I looked it up, this game was worth like $80 or something. It only sold 20,000 units. Obviously a commercial failure. But you know, it's more Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story. It's the same game. It just doesn't have as much of the charm as the original, which is why I want to get the original as well, so I can play, you know, the better version of the game. Speaking of Mario & Luigi, we have Mario & Luigi Paper Jam, their next game here. You know, Mario & Luigi series crossover with Paper Mario. Could have been better if they did this earlier on, because, you know, Paper Mario was at its peak with like the first 3 games, but as soon as Sticker Star came out, we got all the generic characters, and unfortunately that's what this game is, kind of generic. It was a fun crossover between the series, but other than that, it's just kind of, you know, Mario & Luigi with Paper Mario, but not like, you know, the craziness of Paper Mario, more like the Sticker Star Paper Mario, which was kind of unfortunate, but not a bad game. I think just the weakest of the Mario & Luigi series. The last Mario & Luigi game I have is Superstar Saga plus Bowser's Minions. This one definitely deserves the remake it got because it wasn't playable on the 3DS, and all the others were. And like, you know, this one just like got so much quality of life changes and stuff, and it just got like, you know, the improvements it needed to become like a better game. And like, this was like one I would play a lot on road trips. It was only like 20-something hours long, but it had a good story. It was a fun game. It had thoughtful, obviously, you know, it was the origin of him. I think he was a great villain in Bowser's Inside Story, so, you know, just being able to play, like, his original game, his game of origin, where he was kind of, like, the sidekick, it was kind of nice to see kind of his arc, like, the start of his arc, so, if you want to call it that. And then, obviously, had the additional Bowser's Minions mode. Not much to write home about, just additional story, I guess you could say. Same with Bowser's Inside Story, there's Bowser Jr.'s Journey, but there's just not much to say about that. Up next, as you'll notice, especially with my 3DS library, I was really obsessed with Mario back in the day. So obviously we have Mario Kart 7. This one kind of exists. It's like Mario Kart. It's like, you know, obviously it's in between Mario Kart Wii and Mario Kart 8. So like this was like kind of like that middle child that like, you know, it's fine. It has good retro tracks, as I mentioned earlier. And like, you know, it's obviously not a bad game. No Mario Kart game is specifically bad. But this one's just like more of a it's more forgettable because, as I mentioned before, it's between Wii and 8. And 8 just had like, you know, more to it. And Wii was just obviously, you know, peak Mario Kart. So, you know, having like the one in the middle for the 3DS, it just felt like more Mario Kart Wii, I guess you could say, just without the bikes and being on a handheld with an additional glider, which was, I think it was used well in this game, but it just, I don't know, just, it's not a game that, like, you know, I'm just begging to play when I see it, but it's not a bad game. Like I said, it has a really good retro selection. It has, like, one of the best Rainbow Roads in the game. Well, like, the Nitro selection, besides, like, a select few, like, the Woohoo Island tracks, Wario's Shipyard, Music Park, it's a lot of, like, kind of generic, more generic tracks. They're not bad, but they're just not memorable like some of the other ones. Speaking of not memorable, obviously we have New Super Mario Bros. 2 with our next game. Literally, like, again, the middle child of the New Super series, and, you know, one of the two that released on the same year. So, like, you know, it's like, what did this game have? It had coins. And who's begging to, who wants to collect 1,000,000 coins? Apparently the people that made this game, because, like, this game's just more New Super Mario Bros. Again, not bad level design, but, like, at this point, this is the third game in the franchise, and, like, it's starting to get stale, even with the success of New Super DS and Wii. It was starting to get stale, and, like, people were, like, especially with two New Super Mario Bros. Games releasing on the same year, like, people were just, like, you know, over the New Super Mario Bros. Series. Again, they're not bad games. I want to make that really clear. I don't hate these games because they're still really good games. But, like, especially in that series, this is definitely the weakest. Because, you know, obviously the Koopalings returned for the second time. And it's just Mario, it's New Super Mario Bros. Wii. I guess you could say, like, kind of downgraded because, you know, you can't play, like, multiplayer with friends. And it just has that gimmick of collecting coins, which is, like, the only difference that this game has to the others. And even then, it's not too much of a gimmick to make it stand out. It's, like, not that big of a deal to collect all the coins you can. So, you know, obviously, you know, this is probably, like, one of the more, like, less, like, Mario games. But it's not a bad game. It still has good levels and stuff. But, you know, just not one I'm super, you know, fond of playing when I do. It's like a, it's kind of like a guilty pleasure, I guess you could say. Like, you know, you can play it, you have fun. It's just not a game that, you know, you're begging to play after you played it. Similar to that, in a way, I guess you could say Super Mario 3D Land. It was like this kind of suffered the same fate as the New Super series, where it felt kind of generic, but, like, thankfully the level design in this one was more creative. But it felt like a 2D Mario game as a 3D game, because, you know, it was get to the end of the level. But I still enjoyed this game, and it was the return of Boom Boom for the first time. Unfortunately, not the last time, since, I think, Super Mario Bros. 3. And then, obviously, you know, with the Tanuki Leaf being, like, the staple power-up in this game was, like, one of the ones that saved the 3DS. It's not, again, not a bad game. In fact, I think it's severely underrated for what it is. But it's just overshadowed by Super Mario 3D World, which is, like, the better version of this game for the Wii U. Even though this game sold way more, there's still better games out there for the 3D Mario franchise, obviously. But our last game for the 3DS is Super Smash Bros. For 3DS. Or, I'm sorry, for Nintendo 3DS. Smash 4 on the 3DS and the Wii U, like, I think when people saw that this was coming to the 3DS, they're like, oh shit, we're getting Smash on a handheld, that's sick. And, you know, it was a really fun time to play. But obviously, you know, now that we have Ultimate for the Switch, this isn't one I go back to super often. But it's still, like, one of the games I've played a lot of on the 3DS. Unlocking all the characters, playing the classic modes for the characters, playing online, even though it was a lag fest and wasn't that great. It was free online, which, we can't say about for the Switch. But it was a fun time to play this game, and obviously for Ultimate, it had the best roster in the game, or in the series, so, it had that going for it. Plus, it had some pretty good, like, original battle courses for this, so. And, like, I just think, like, the menu music for this game, and for the Wii U counterpart, just absolutely slap. Probably the worst menu in the series, but, the menu music absolutely slap. Moving on to our second to last of the systems. I know we've been here for a while. We got, obviously, the Wii U. The commercial failure it was, unfortunately. Not a bad system. But it was basically marketed poorly because, they said it was the brand, it had, like, new gamepad, it's the new controller. People thought it was just an extension, so, that didn't really do Nintendo well. But it had some really good games on there. Most of them have been ported to the Switch, so I don't have as many. But I did get Mario Kart 8 for the Wii U. Not necessarily because, I was begging to play this on the Wii U because I already have 8 Deluxe with the Booster Force Pass obviously already. But because I kind of want to play the modded tracks, which is kind of why I got it, because I recently modded my Wii U. So just being able to play modded Mario Kart 8 tracks without having to mod my my Switch was kind of nice. Because I already had the Wii U modded, so just being able to play the modded tracks made by the community, I think that would be a lot of fun to do. It's Mario Kart 8. We love Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. This is the inferior version, obviously. I don't have much nostalgia for this one, but, it's a Mario Kart game, not a bad game. Again, not a bad game, but, absolutely, the death of the series with New Super Mario Bros. Was New Super Mario Bros. U. Another reason why the Wii U failed was because I think this was, like, one of the closer to launch games for the Wii U. If not a launch title for the Wii U, and it was just like, oh, is this just New Super Mario Bros. Wii, but for the console in HD? No, it was a whole new game, but, like, it just really, because all the games blended together, I don't blame people for not picking this one up. The only thing besides, like, the new power-ups that makes this one really stand out is the, being able to put little, blocks on the game, on the screen to make platforming easier. With the gamepad, but other than that, it's just New Super Mario Bros. U. Not much else to say. I made a whole video about this one, Nintendo Land. I made a whole video talking about, like, how this can come to the Switch. And, like, honestly, after replaying the game for footage, I really enjoyed this game, and I do want it to come to the Switch or the next system. Unfortunately, is it going to happen? Probably not because of all the gamepad, or the gamepad features. And, like, just the heavy reliance on the gamepad. But this, like, really showcased what the Wii U can do, like, really well. It's a really, like, good-looking game. It's a really fun mini-game collection that you can play with friends or play by yourself if you're, lonely. But it really showcased, that the Wii U is capable of having fun games. And I just wish that they did more with, like, the idea of, like, this game. I wish that they made, like, a version of it for the Switch. But, unfortunately, this gem is stuck on the Wii U. Hopefully, it's not stuck there forever. One that thankfully isn't stuck on the Wii U, however, is Super Mario 3D World. Again, this is one of those Nintendo Selects games. I got this one because this is, like, I especially, even though I didn't get a Wii U till recently, like myself, I played a lot of this game. In fact, I pulled, like, 40-hour all-nighter with some friends when this game released. And we, like, grinded through this game, throwing each other off the cliffs, off the levels. It was a fun time. One of the, like, best moments, like, one of the best memories I have with gaming. So, I obviously had to pick this up for this, for the Wii U. Even though I have it for the Switch and that's the superior version, this is, like, the game for the Wii U, I think. Like, this is, like, a must-have for the Wii U. If you don't have a Switch, obviously, and you don't want to get 3D World for the Switch, this is, like, a must-have for the Wii U. Another weird one I do have in here, or I guess a weird game I do have in here is Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild for the Wii U. Because, like, obviously, everyone got this for the Switch. Me included, I got this for the Switch. But, like, I've seen this, like, so many times at the retro game store I go to. Just, like, sitting there basically begging for me to get it. And I just, like, caved in. I was like, you know what? We'll get it because, like, this one didn't sell super many units. It only sold like 1 million or less than that even, because everyone got it for the Switch. But like, just having this, it's just so weird. And I like it because you know, this game was like made for the Wii U. It was like supposed to be the Wii U's big Zelda game, but it took so freaking long for them to make. So instead, they made it for the Switch and for the Wii U, and you know, it was launched on it for the Wii or for the Switch. So it's more associated with the Switch, but still a great game from what I've played it. I haven't beat it yet, but I don't know about the Wii U version. I'm guessing it's pretty similar, but if it's like the Switch version, it's a great game. Another great game from what I've heard and seen is The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD. I do have like the gold version of it, which I guess there's like 2 versions of it. I have the gold one for the case. I think it looks kind of nice. But like the art style, I really like. I know when the game came out for the GameCube, it was like kind of like, you know, people really wanted to get a more dark and gritty Zelda game, which, you know, we'll get into that one as well, or that remake or HD remaster. But like looking at it now, like even on the GameCube, it still looks really good. But like, you know, having this game in HD, like on an HD console as well in widescreen, it's a good time. I've heard that this is like a lot of people's favorite, or one of like a lot of people's favorite Zelda games. So like, you know, just being able to have it as well. Even though I haven't like played it yet, I really do need to play a lot of these games. I've just noticed that I'm making this video. But, you know, just having this game, having the opportunity to play when I want to, it's just nice to have. Same with Twilight Princess HD, which is the dark and gritty game that everyone wanted on the GameCube, and also ended up releasing on the... I think it released on the Wii a month before the GameCube version. And obviously, you know, this one wasn't as heavily, like, enhanced, I guess you could say, as, like, the Wii, or as the Wind Waker. But it still, like, you know, did really... It still looks really good for the Wii U, obviously, because it's an HD. And, like, it has some quality of life features. Not as much changed, but it's a... I still hear a lot of good things about this game, even, like, to this day. So, you know, just, again, having this the luxury to be able to play when I want to. It's nice. And then to finish off the Wii U library, we have Yoshi's Woolly World. You know, there's Crafted World on the Switch, but I've heard that one's kind of ass. So, you know, I gotta get Woolly World because, you know, that's, like, considered, like, better one of the 2. So, don't have much to say about it. I think the art style is pretty cute because, you know, obviously it's Yoshi Woolly, like, with wool and, like, you know, like, more craft aesthetic that's not, like, crappy looking craft aesthetic as Crafted World. It's just a nice art style, and I want to play this game sometime. I've heard that, like, the levels are great and stuff, but I can't really speak for this game, but heard great things. Now, obviously, for our last system, this is, like, my biggest one, so I'm going to definitely try to speedrun this because there's a lot to go through here, as it has, like, a third of my titles here, third of my collection. But obviously, we got the Switch. No, everyone has this thing at this point. If you're watching this video and you don't have a Switch for some reason, what are you doing? Go get a Switch. Probably like the best system that you could possibly have at this time. Just because, you know, you can play a lot of Nintendo games on there, as you can see here. Obviously, to start off, we're going to just go through these quick. We have 1-2 Switch, not everybody 1-2 Switch. We have 1-2 Switch, my own European copy, and I still haven't even opened it. I got this game because it was really cheap. So, you know, nice little, not a good game, but a little tech demo for the Switch that released on the Switch during launch because, you know, they needed to make games. Next, we have Animal Crossing New Horizons, a game that helped a lot of people out during lockdown. Again, a game I haven't really played. I haven't opened. I think I played it like once, maybe, if even that. I've heard it's a good game and it has good DLC, but I just feel like some of the content for it should have been there at launch instead of being the free updates. This is one of the games that unfortunately suffered through that. So, you know, I've heard it's a fun game. And again, it helped a lot of people through lockdown during isolation. So, you know, give Nintendo props to that. But other than that, I want to eventually maybe try getting into it. I know one of my friends just recently got this. I think he got it today, actually. So, you know, if he wants someone to play with, maybe I'll play this with him. But I don't have much desire to try Animal Crossing New Horizons. Next, another, you know, just a game is ARMS. so much potential for this game when it released. Like, it was a cool concept, it was a new IP, Nintendo could have done so much with it, but it just kind of fell flat because, you know, like, what is in ARMS, and it just kind of, like, the gameplay, it's fun for, like, the first few rounds, but then it just gets repetitive, so, you know, there's just not much to say about this. If it got DLC or got updates or something, I'm sure this game could have done a lot better, but unfortunately, even though it's, like, a novel idea, it just kind of fell flat. Another game I haven't played is Big Brain Academy, Brain vs. Brain. Again, this is one I got for cheap, and like this is like when I was like gonna try to collect every first-party Nintendo game. And this is one of the first ones on there. I think it's like a game where you compete with your like friends or something to see who has the biggest brain. I don't know. Again, it was one I got for cheap, so you know I didn't even bother looking to see what it was. So no, still. Yeah, I was great with money management. One that I have played a little bit of is Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze with the new funky mode. Can't forget the new funky mode. But this one's a really fun time. This is like considered one of the best 2D platformers ever, from like what I've heard. And you know, obviously it's a Wii U game on the Switch, so with the new funky mode. So just because it's Funky Kong alone, obviously this game's a 10 out of 10. But I do want to play more of this. I do want to beat it eventually. It's obviously Donkey Kong Country game, so it's going to be good, no matter what. Another game I can't maybe really say the same thing for is Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. To be honest, I don't know why I got this game. I haven't played it. I haven't touched it. I apparently opened it, though, for some reason. I don't know why. It's a Fire Emblem game, but it's also in the Warriors style, so it's like kind of the worst of both worlds. But this was during 2022 when I got basically every Nintendo game that released that year, which was a horrible year to do that. So, you know, I have this game just because of that. I don't know why I got this game. But one I'm happy I did get, though, and tried, one I definitely am happy I tried was Kirby and the Forgotten Land. I could go on a rant about this one, but I'm going to try to make this quick because, you know, this video is probably really freaking long. But Kirby and the Forgotten Land is the best Kirby game I've played. It was the best game I played last year, in fact. First 3D Kirby, and they did really well. It had fun levels, great music, just fun controls overall. It was a really good time. Kirby Star Allies, I've heard mixed things about. I've heard it's like considered one of the weakest Kirby games. It's considered like, you know, it's a fine Kirby game. I haven't really played it yet, but I think of the 2D ones that are on the Switch, I think people like would say get Return to Dreamland Deluxe. So I guess I'll say that this is the same thing, but don't sleep on this one. I guess this one I've heard it has its fans. So obviously take what I say about, you know, not playing this one with a grain of salt, because I haven't played it either. I do want to try it sometime though, so I can form an official opinion on it. I've just heard things, so I'm not gonna encourage you or discourage you from buying it. One that I will discourage you from buying, though, however, is Mario Strikers Battle League. Waste of $60 right here. If you were a fan of the channel back last year, you know I played this game a lot with his name was Kagan. We played like I think I streamed like 10 hours of this game that first season. Never touched it since. Even with the DLC like release or like the free updates released, never touched this game again because the gameplay, it's fine, but like the game is just same game every time you play it. So like there's just not much reason to go back to this one. Definitely was definitely not worth the $60 I paid for this. Should have been like 20. One that is definitely worth the $60 plus 25 I spent for the DLC is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. You know, as I said, this is my favorite Mario Kart game just because of how much I played it, and the DLC just makes it even better. And this one definitely made battle mode, actual battle mode in this game. I don't think I mentioned with Mario Kart 8, but that battle mode sucked, so this one definitely made battle mode a lot better. And I think this is probably my favorite Switch game, even though it's a port, just because of like how much fun I have with this one. There's just so much like replayability you can do with this, because you know, even if you like played all the tracks millions of times, you can still play online, and that's a fun time as long as everyone has a stable internet connection. But speaking of a good time, we got Metroid Dread right here. Why do we consider it as the best of the 2D Metroid games? And this was like a game that was like supposed to come out 19 years before its launch for the DS, but then got like scrapped or something on the DS. It was like the rumored Metroid Dread, and then it came to the Switch, and like everyone was like, "Holy shit, this is the game that was supposed to come out on the DS that never happened, and now we're getting on the Switch just randomly too." And you know, I think this was part of Nintendo's master plan to revive Metroid. So, fun game. I am still yet to beat it again, but I do want to go back and play this game. It was a lot of fun when I played it. Another one I do want to try to get back into is Metroid Prime Remastered. Obviously, you know, I have Prime 2 for the GameCube, as I showed before. This is the remaster of the first one. You know, it's a solid game. It's Metroid Prime at its best because it looks really good on the Switch version. So, you know, definitely get this if you want to play Metroid games or Metroid Prime games. Other game, conveniently enough, that you shouldn't get, though, is Nintendo Switch Sports. This one's a weird one for me because like I ordered one copy of this and I got two for some reason. Nintendo, I guess Amazon like messed it up or something, got me two. I was only charged for one, so I just have another copy of this like sitting up on my shelf up there. Another box version, but this game was not worth the $50 for it because it's just a worse version of Wii Sports. Plus, it took them like freaking 9 months to make golf. Which is like, why does it take so long to make golf? It's just golf, and you didn't even make new holes. You just reused the same ones. So, you know, definitely like, really salty about this game. I don't know why I got it. I guess because it was like, oh yeah, Wii Sports is coming to the Switch. Would much prefer it being Wii Sports on the Switch, but we got Switch Sports instead, unfortunately. A game that I've heard a lot of good things about, another Wii U part is Pikmin 3 Deluxe. This is another one I got for cheap and didn't play it. The Pikmin games, they seem like they could be fun times, but I just haven't had like the motivation to try a Pikmin game. So, you know, I guess since Pikmin 4 is out, if I want to play a Pikmin game, I'd probably get that one because I've heard that one's a really good one. But this one is still a good one as well, from what I've seen. So I guess you can get this one as well if you don't want to get Pikmin 4 for some reason. But this one, again, was another one I got for pretty cheap. I think this one was like $20 when I got it, which was weird for a first-party Switch game, especially a game like Pikmin. So, you know, since it was on sale, I was like, you know what, might as well get it. Now we have a big frickin' plethora of Pokemon games. We're gonna just knock them out pretty quickly. We got Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, literally the worst remakes ever to happen to Pokemon. Why did these games exist? I don't know. Why didn't Game Freak remake them? I don't know. But these games kind of suck. That are literally just the DS games with the same glitches, just with a on the Switch with like I guess a new art style. But we got Pokemon Legends Arceus. This one was a fun one last year. One of the better games last year, I think. But it still had its downsides. But it was a good, it was a breath of fresh air Pokemon games, and it's like the only good like mainline Pokemon game to come to the Switch. So, you know, we got that from there. We got next up Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, Let's Go Pikachu. The Gen 1 remakes with the Pokemon Go inspired catching mechanic. I haven't played these ones, but they're the same Gen 1 games that we've gotten plenty of times before, so not much to say about them. But I guess they're fine enough games, probably some of the better Pokemon games maybe on the Switch, I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. Next we got Pokemon Sword and Shield. I think it was Shield, yeah, I think it was Shield I played, then I got this one later on. But we had Shield. I played like up to like the last gym, but like the story was just such a snooze fest, so I never beat the game because I had no like motivation to do so. I just see a purpose to. So this game I have unfinished. I don't even know if my save data is on the Switch OLED because I played this game on my original Switch. So who knows if I even have the save data left. But these games, they kind of suck. We'll just put it that way. And then for the last one, the last Switch Pokemon game, thankfully, that I have, I don't even know why I have almost all of them, is Pokemon Violet. I played like 5 minutes of this one and then just like didn't want to play it anymore because like the game just looked like ass. And it was just like at an unfinished, unpolished state when I got it. I've heard that like the patches have made it more playable, but I just haven't had a want to go back to this game. So maybe eventually I'll play this game. And I've heard that the story's better in this one than Pokemon Sword and Shield. And I've heard that this is actually probably like one of the best stories in the series. Maybe I'll go back to it eventually, but I just don't have, the want to go back to it, especially after my first impressions with this game, which are really important, by the way. Next we got, I'm just gonna knock these two out at the same time as well. We got Splatoon 1 and 2, or 2 and 3. Splatoon 2 I played a good amount of when I got it. I think I got it like 2020, 2019, one of those 2 years. But then I got Splatoon 3 when I got every Nintendo Switch game that released last year. That was the first party. This one is more same with the Splatoon 2, just, different Splatfest type, and it was just like kind of, I guess you'd say, the definitive way to play Splatoon. And everyone plays this one. I haven't played much of it, but no one plays Splatoon 2 as far as I know of anymore. So, but Splatoon 3, I think, should have waited for the next system. Could have been like a good launch time for the next system, because it feels just more Splatoon 2. Like I mentioned before, I don't really have any opinions on this game because I haven't played much of it, but just kind of looks and feels more like Splatoon 2 that we already have on the Switch. It's like, why would we get this one? But, Nintendo wanted money, so they made that. They knew that they would get money with Splatoon. Speaking of wanting money, we got Super Mario 3D All-Stars right here. The collection of 3 3D Mario games. Looking back at it, this game isn't as bad as everyone made it out to be. Sure, the limited time release was stupid. It was for the anniversary, obviously. But we got 3 great Mario games for $60. If you want to get these games on their official hardware, well, good luck getting all the games and all the consoles for $60. So, great way to play these games, and I think you could still actually get it on like Amazon or something. May have to spend like a little bit extra as a little more than retail price, but it's still 3 of Mario's best adventures. But we got like Mario 60. We got good games on here, so I think it's worth it. Another one I think was also worth the money, the $60 worth of DLC and $60 for itself. Smash Ultimate. Some of the most fun I've had with with video games. Obviously, maybe not playing the game, but the Smash reveals were some of the highlights of those years for me. So just having the game, having all the DLC. It's a game I want to try to get back into again, but I don't know if I will. If I do, then I think I could have fun with it, but I'm not dying to go back into this game. It's a good game, don't get me wrong. Just, I'm not in the competitive side, and Smash is these days competitive. But, don't get me wrong, wonderful game. Another decent one I heard is Skyward Sword HD. This one is literally, just the HD port of the Skyward Sword for the Wii, and it doesn't require motion controls anymore, thankfully. But it's not much else to say. It's more Skyward Sword. It looks better. It's on the Switch. Skyward Sword on the Switch. Yay! So I gotta really say about it. I haven't played this one yet. I've played a little bit on the Wii. I don't remember much of it on the Wii though, so I'll give this one a try eventually as well. Like all the other Zelda games, I have a huge backlog, as you can tell. But it's a fun enough time, and it's probably the best way to play this game. And the only way to play this game, besides Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom, definitely the highlight of the year for me. This game, even though I haven't beaten it, the time I think I put 50 hours into this game when it came out. I had a whole 1 month hiatus from YouTube playing this game. This game was definitely worth the wait, $70 for me. Even though I haven't beaten it yet, I need to beat this game. Wonderful game. I think this is Game of the Year material right here. Wonderful world. Story may be kind of lacking, but just being able to do what you want in this game, on top of the world that was created in Breath of the Wild, with the underground, and the Sky Islands. Just a lot of fun. This game is definitely one of the best games on the Switch. And if I had only a few games I can get on Switch, this would definitely be one of them. Now, we're just going to quickly nail the Xenoblade games. The last 3 games we got here. Got Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3. Well, I guess Definitive Edition 2 and 3. Definitive Edition is the only one I've beaten. I don't want to... don't get me wrong, I'm sure these games are great, but I just did not really like the combat in this one. I love the story, though. The story was so good. but like the combat, I'm sure is like pretty similar to the other ones as well. So like, I don't want to have a need, but you know, maybe I'll look up to see what the stories are like, because I really like the story of Xenoblade 1, and the music of it was wonderful as well. And from what I've seen, Xenoblade 3 and 2 has some pretty good music as well. Thanks to you guys, you know, putting songs in my music playlist for streams. But other than that, I think we've kind of covered everything we have here. Obviously, you know, this one's probably gonna be one of my longer videos here on the channel. So I guess if you did stick to the end, and you enjoyed kind of me talking about nerd stuff for about probably an hour, depending on how long this video is by the end. But thank you so much for watching. It means a lot to me. I just do kind of want to mention this here at the end of the video for those of you that really care for the channel and want to see videos like this. I'm open for suggestions because I kind of want to change like the content I make a little bit. Because I made a community post about this, but I feel like I've been making the same kind of content for years now. So like I want to try to make it so I can make more videos that I want to make and not just what I think would do well in the algorithm. So I guess this is kind of like the start to that. So if you want to see a certain type of video, and I'll definitely try to do what you guys want me to do as well, but I wanted to also try to make videos that I want to make and just like, you know, be able to enjoy making YouTube videos more so again. Like I enjoy making YouTube videos, don't get me wrong, but like I want to do videos that like I think would be fun to make and that would just kind of get you guys to know who I am more as a person, I guess, which is kind of like what this video showcased here. But if you did watch to the end, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't yet, consider giving the video a like and subscribing to the channel, as that helps out a ton. And if you want to see another video made by me, I will be putting a video on the screen probably now, where I talk about, let's see, what video do I want to put on screen? Yes, where I talk about Wave 6 of the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass. Wacky predictions in there, you don't want to miss it. But with that being said, I am the biggest nub on YouTube, Christendo, signing off. Have a great one, have a great rest of your day. Love you all.